if you can. Okay, not a problem. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruven Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Staptitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Esi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Narayanam Namaskrityam Naranchaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktar Bhavati Naishtike. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to the morning Srimad Bhagavatam reading class. Today we are reading from Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 17, Punishment and Reward of Kali. Text 36. Kalir uvacha yatra kva vatha vatsyami Sārva-bhauma tavagneya lakshya tatra tatrapi tam ateshu sarasaram. Kalir uvacha yatra kva vatha vatsyami Sārva-bhauma tavagneya lakshya tatra tatrapi tam ateshu sarasaram. Synonyms. Kalir uvacha, the personality of Kali, said, yatra, anywhere, kwa, and everywhere. Kwa, and everywhere. Va, either, atha, thereof, vatsyami, I shall reside. Sārva-bhauma, O Lord or Emperor of the earth. Tava, your, agneya, by the order, lakshya, I see, tatra tatra, anywhere and everywhere, api, also, tvam, your majesty, atta, taken over, ishu, arrows, sarasharam, bows. Translation. O your majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere, under your order, I shall but see you with the bow and arrows wherever I look. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The personality of Kali could see that Maharaja Parīkṣit was the emperor of all lands all over the world, and thus, anywhere he might live, he would have to meet with the same mood of the king. The personality of Kali was meant for mischief, and Parīkṣit Maharaj was meant for subduing all kinds of mischief mongers. Especially the personality of Kali, it was better therefore for the personality of Kali to have been killed by the king then and there instead of being killed elsewhere. He was, after all, a surrendered soul before the king, and it was for the king to do what was required. Mukam karoti vachalam pangom langaite girim yat krupatamaham vande Shri Guru Dhinatarinam. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, the deliverer of the fallen souls. His mercy turns the dumb into eloquent speakers and enables the lame to cross the mountains. I seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. I seek forgiveness for any transgressions I commit while speaking. We have been so fortunate to hear from so many Vaishnavas about the verses in this chapter. We have been hearing for about 3 or 4 weeks, a little longer than that, and there has been a lot of details given. Even yesterday, Premananda Mataji did a wonderful job by explaining so well. There's practically nothing I can speak in this chapter, particularly with this particular verse, which is so, the purport is also very small, without touching upon what has already been spoken. So please forgive me if I am a little boring or, I'm not able to convey the proper message. So what we are seeing here is the personality of Kali was trembling in fear in front of Sārva-bhauma Parīkṣit. Even then, he was not ready to give up his devious means. He had surrendered out of fear. And we see this very often even in real life. When the police catches a thief or a criminal, they are frightened, they are in fear. But they're also at the same point of time thinking, how can I get out of this and how can I continue with whatever I am doing? So here you can see Kali is laying the groundwork so that he can negotiate a reward or an escape. I'm sorry. Because he knew Parīkṣit Maharaj would not deviate from dharmic principles. This is the other thing that most of the culprits know, that if the law-abiding officer is morally bound, ethically bound, then he won't cross the limits that has been laid down for him. That way, they know they can make an escape by either employing a wrong means or even sometimes employing a lawyer or somebody who can argue the case in devious means and get out. The same way, Kali is looking for an escape here. Kali significantly uses the term Sārva-bhauma when he addresses Parīkṣit. Bhauma means earth, the planet Earth, and Sarva means everything on the planet. So Sārva-bhauma means one who is the Lord of the planet Earth. It's also the nature of the culprits to study the subject that they are going to attack. Like a robber decides to rob a house, or an enemy decides to attack another enemy. What they do is they do a methodical study of what's going on, what are the behaviors, what is the weak point, what is the strong point. The same way, the personality of Kali has studied the behavior of the king, and he has realized personality of Kali has no weaknesses. And so he was saying, you are not only the Lord of all the lands and the seas on the planet Earth, you are actually roaming all around the lands and the seas with your bows and arrows, looking to subdue any mischief mongers and establish dharma. So we are getting, how Parīkṣit Maharaj was ruling and how he was enforcing from somebody like Kali himself. He's stating it. This is how he was keeping the law and order in the state. This is clearly also the mentality of Kali and most of the people in Kali Yuga. Constantly looking over their shoulders if the enforcer of the law is observing the misdeeds that are being conducted. So it can be robbery, it can be cheating, it can be gambling, it can be evading taxes or illicit vices of various kinds. It's constantly being committed, and as long as you're not caught, you're good. For example, there is a speed limit on the road, and on the freeway, you can drive within the speed limit to be safe for yourself and safe for everyone else. However, the general pattern is, as long as there is no cop or no radar, you can keep speeding. In fact, there is an app called Waze, which helps you spot, radars or, cops who are waiting there, and they slow down using this particular app. So even, breaking the law has been made into a commercial activity. We come across this word Sārva-bhauma in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures multiple times. In fact, the kings of Hastinapura have always been known as Sārva-bhauma. It was one king who ruled over the entire planet. The king was also Krishna consciousness and upholder of dharmic principles. Every nook and corner of the planet was self-sufficient because there was plenty of rain and crops, and the populace was happy and content. There was no need to resort to unethical means. There was no need to break the laws of dharma. That was the power of the kings of Hastinapur. When we read these things, a lot of times, at least my mind, comes down to the mundane material level, and I think, oh, this is all some sort of metaphor. Is this really true? However, when we dive deep into the scriptures, there are mentions of Arjuna, for example, taking a huge army through the passages of Himalayas. It's very clearly described, the geography and other things. He went into the Afghan regions, then to Central Asia, all the way up to Turkey, and then returning back through Central Asia. He went to Tibet, China, Burma, or Brahmadesh, Assam, and then he traced his way all the way to Kashmir, Sindh, and then coming back to Hastinapur, along with the undefeated sacrificial horse of the Ashwamedha Yajna, which was being conducted by Yudhishthira Maharaj. In fact, there is a province in Afghanistan called Panjshir. We have all heard this because it has been in recent news for the resistance against Taliban. Panja means 5 and Sher means lion. This place is named after the 5 Pandava brothers who visited and stayed there for some time. So we can understand that these are not really mythical stories as has been, propagated, and we have been brainwashed to believe in the current education. But these are actual histories, and Arjuna and Krishna and all these people came to the world, they did their service to the Lord, and they all went back. When the scriptures talk about Sārva-bhauma, they also talk about the 7 continents and 7 oceans. Again, we hardly take notice of this. Correct? So these were always there. These 7 continents and the 7 seas or the oceans were always there. And the kings like Parīkṣit used to travel to all these continents by crossing the 7 oceans. Here, the personality of Kali himself is stating that this is the fact very clearly, because he's saying, I go to any land, anywhere in the planet Earth, you are going to be visiting it, and I am in danger. However, over time, this knowledge of not only the 7 seas and the 7 worlds, even the dharma, we have lost it. Then came the people of Kali Yuga with lesser fund of knowledge and climbed that they have discovered these new lands. But these lands have always been there. But the scriptures also state that the 7 seas and 7 lands were always there. And there are a lot of Puranic stories, and even in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are a lot of stories describing these 7 lands. Over a period of time, as the dharmic principles declined, this one kingdom that the Hastinapur kings ruled over started to break down. It started to decline with the decline of dharmic principles. With the increase of adharma, we have now more than 195 countries. Can you imagine? And we are not satisfied. Still, there is so much strife in the world. People are asking for more to make their own countries, as if making their own countries will reduce the strife and bring back dharma. No. And with all these new countries and demand for new countries, what do? They openly encourage adharma. How? By licensing places of slaughter, by licensing gambling, illicit sex, and liquor, sanctioning exploitation of natural resources in the name of business and globalization, organize military to fight each other with weapons of mass destruction, create institutions where children are taught subjects by removing Krishna consciousness. Like Srila Prabhupada has repeated it in many of his purports, we are actively engaged in creating a godless society. The blind leaders and blind followers cannot see the destruction they are causing by their ignorance. Contrast this with the dharmic Sārva-bhaumas of Hastinapur. They wielded immense powers, but they had abundant humility. They had pridelessness, non-violence. Non-violence doesn't mean, staying passive in spite of, there being provocations. Non-violence is putting down any mischief when it happens, even if it means using violence. In Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada actually talks about the principle of justice, where the judge puts a person to death because that is the right remedy. The surgeon uses the knife to remove a tumor or rectify a problem in the heart, and that is not violence. So the kings using violence to maintain peace and dharma is not violence. Tolerance. These kings had a lot of tolerance. They had simplicity, accepting a spiritual master. Nowadays, you can't see any leader who will accept a spiritual master. Cleanliness is very difficult to find in the leaders, both externally and internally. Steadiness in the face of calamities as well as joys. Self-control, renunciation of objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, even-mindedness, and constant unalloyed devotion of the Lord. These were the attributes of the kings of Hastinapura. And because these qualities, they were able to establish the principles of dharma. Even in the case of the personality of Kali, Parīkṣit Maharaj could have easily killed him, but he spared him because that was the right thing to do and that was his duty to do. This act is similar to his grandfather Arjuna sparing the life of Ashwatthama after Ashwatthama had killed the Upapandavas and so many others like a coward in the night, and then he released the Brahmastra against Maharaja Parīkṣit, who was in the womb of his mother at that point of time. So, in conclusion, the duration of Kali Yuga is 432,000 years in total. But Kali Yuga has begun only 5,122 years ago. And there are still 426,000 years for the personality of Kali to rule over. Can you imagine, within 5,000 years, we went from one nation with dharmic principles to 192 nations with no dharmic principles in it. The more and more Kali personality gets stronger, the more and more the world becomes, the world order starts declining. It's also said, this place is full of misery, dukhalayam ashashvatam. So we need to look to get out of this place at the earliest. For that, our beloved Lord Sri Krishna appeared 500 years ago in the golden avatar of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to tell us that we don't have to suffer the Kali Yuga. There is a simple way to escape by following the Yuga Dharma of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And performing Sankirtan. Then we have our beloved Srila Prabhupada, who came to renew and echo this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the planet Earth. If each of us can utilize this golden opportunity to take up chanting of the holy name, we can be sure to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. These are not my words. This is the promise Srila Prabhupada made. Thank you, devotees. If you have any comments or questions or rectifications in what I spoke, please feel free to express yourselves. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, Lingaraja Prabhu, looks like there's no comments or questions. We'll close here. Pancha kalpatarubhyasya krupa sindhubhyo evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.